"You're nothing but a disappointment," my father sneered as he threw me out. I packed my things and didn't look back. 3 days later, he sobbed on my doorstep. I 29M. Never thought I'd see the day when my father would choose a lie over the truth. But that moment came on a rainy Tuesday when my sister's latest manipulation finally succeeded in destroying what little relationship we had left. The raindrops pelted against the windows as I sat at the dinner table, celebrating my father's 58th birthday. The familiar weight of obligation pressed against my chest. These family gatherings had become a minefield of memories and unspoken resentments, but I showed up anyway, always the dutiful son, despite everything. My sister Megan, 27, sat across from me, her perfect smile hiding the serpent beneath. She'd been my father's golden child since before I could form memories. My mother Claire, 55, busied herself in the kitchen, her quiet resilience the only constant in my childhood. My father Richard, 58, held court at the head of the table, exactly as he had for 30 years, though the strain of his recent business troubles showed in the new lines around his eyes. I'd overheard my mother on the phone weeks earlier, her hushed voice carrying concern about another risky investment and borrowing against the house again. It wasn't the first time. My father's business went through cycles, extravagant success followed by near-catastrophic failure, always chasing the next big deal instead of building something sustainable. But we weren't supposed to talk about that. Not at family gatherings, not ever. The pattern of favoritism was established early in our lives. When Megan graduated high school, she received a brand new BMW. My graduation gift, a refurbished laptop that crashed weekly. Megan's college education was fully funded by our parents. Mine required student loans that I'm still paying off. Each birthday, each Christmas, each milestone reinforced the same message. She mattered more. "Something's wrong," my father's voice cut through my thoughts. His face had gone pale. "My watch is missing." The air in the room shifted. My father's prized Rolex Submariner, a $15,000 indulgence he'd purchased after landing a major client 5 years ago, was his most treasured possession. He wore it to every important occasion, including tonight's dinner. "When did you last see it?" my mother asked, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I put it on the desk in my office before I showered," he said, pushing back from the table. "It should be there." I watched as panic rippled across his features. The watch was more than an accessory. It was a symbol of his success, a daily reminder that he had made it, even as his business floundered behind the scenes. I followed him to his office, genuinely concerned. Despite our strained relationship, I didn't want to see him upset. The office was immaculate as always, the leather chair positioned precisely at the mahogany desk, family photos arranged in perfect symmetry, but no watch. "We should check the security cameras," Megan suggested, her voice dripping with helpfulness. "You installed them last month, remember?" My father nodded, moving to his computer. I didn't think anything of it then. Why would I? I had nothing to hide. The footage showed the hallway outside his office. My father scrolled back through the afternoon hours. There I was, walking down the hallway toward the bathroom. And then, a moment when I paused near his office door. "Stop," Megan said. "Rewind that." My father replayed the footage. The camera angle didn't show whether I entered the office, just that I had stopped near the doorway. The silence lasted 3 heartbeats. Then Megan cleared her throat. "I hate to say this, Dad, but I saw Alex going into your office earlier. I didn't think anything of it then, but now—" The words hung in the air like poison. My stomach dropped. A cold heaviness spread through my limbs. "What? That's not true," I said, my voice sounding strange in my ears. "I walked past to use the bathroom. I never went in." My father's eyes hardened as he turned to me, not with the uncertainty of someone weighing possibilities, but with the conviction of someone whose suspicions had been confirmed. "Dad, you can't seriously believe I would steal from you," I protested. "Why were you near my office?" His voice was cold. "I told you I was going to the bathroom. Then why does Megan say she saw you go in?" My mother stepped forward. "Richard, let's not jump to conclusions." "Stay out of this, Claire," he snapped. I looked at Megan. Her expression was perfect, concerned, reluctant, as though she hated being the bearer of bad news. But I caught the gleam in her eye, the slight twitch at the corner of her mouth. Satisfaction. "Dad, please," I said. "I didn't take anything. I wouldn't—" "Empty your pockets," he demanded. My chest tightened. A roaring in my ears. The familiar sensation of being judged and found wanting, a feeling that had colored my entire relationship with my father. "You can't be serious. Empty your pockets." The humiliation burned through me as I turned out my pockets in my childhood home. Car keys, wallet, phone, nothing else. Check his car, Megan suggested. My father brushed past me, heading for the front door. I followed, anger rising like a tide. In the driveway, he demanded my keys. My hands trembled as I handed them over, watching him search through my car like I was a criminal. My mother stood on the porch, her face stricken, Megan behind her, barely concealing her triumph. Finding nothing in my car only seemed to fuel my father's rage. His face flushed as he stalked back toward me. "I've put up with a lot from you," he said, jabbing a finger into my chest. "The mediocre grades, the practical career choice instead of joining the family business, the constant disappointment, but I never thought you'd stoop to stealing from me." The injustice of it all crashed over me. Years of being the scapegoat, the lesser child, culminated in this moment. "I didn't take your watch," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Think about who's always needed money, who's always asking you for loans. It's not me." My father's face contorted. "Get out." "What? Take your things and get out of my house. You're dead to me." Something broke inside me then, not my heart that had been broken by him too many times already. This was different, like watching the final thread of hope unravel, a physical sensation of tearing, of something vital coming undone. "Richard, stop this," my mother cried. He whirled on her. "If you defend him, you can leave too." Rain soaked through my jacket as I stood in the driveway, watching 30 years of conditional love reach its inevitable conclusion. My father stood in the doorway, my childhood photographs visible on the wall behind him, as he told me never to come back. Through the window, I caught Megan's expression, not even bothering to hide her satisfaction now. I drove away, raindrops mingling with the tears I refused to acknowledge. My apartment felt hollow when I returned, empty in a way it never had before. I hadn't lost a loving father, that man had never existed. What I'd lost was the illusion that someday he might see me clearly. Sleep evaded me that night. I called in sick to work the next day, something I'd done maybe twice in my entire career as a software engineer. The hours blurred together. I called my mother repeatedly, but each attempt went straight to voicemail. By the third day, a peculiar numbness had settled over me. I returned to work, moving through the motions. My colleagues noticed but didn't pry. For that small mercy, I was grateful. When my phone finally rang that evening and my mother's name appeared on the screen, my heart stuttered. Her voice was steady but strained when I answered. "Alex, you need to know what's happened. Everything's changed." She didn't cry as she explained. That surprised me. For 30 years, my mother had been the peacemaker, the one who smoothed things over, who urged forgiveness even when none was deserved. But there was steel in her voice now. After I'd left, she'd gone to Megan's room, looking for what she wasn't sure, evidence perhaps, or just understanding of how her daughter could do something so cruel. What she found was a pawn shop receipt dated 3 weeks earlier, for a Rolex Submariner. Confronting my father with this evidence had not gone as expected. He'd refused to believe it, accused my mother of fabricating it to protect me. The louder she insisted on the truth, the more enraged he became, until finally she'd said words she'd been holding back for decades. "For 30 years I've watched you destroy our son's confidence while spoiling our daughter rotten. I've watched you make one reckless business decision after another, putting our financial security at risk. I'm done." What happened next hadn't been a spontaneous reaction. My mother, it turned out, had been preparing for this moment for months, perhaps years. The house we'd lived in had been left to her by her grandmother. The divorce papers had already been drafted. The separate bank account had been established. The locks had already been changed while my father and I argued in the driveway. By the time she called me, my father and sister had been locked out of the house for 2 days. They were staying at a cheap extended stay hotel, their access to joint accounts frozen pending the divorce proceedings. "I want you to come home, Alex," my mother said. "The house is half yours anyway. It always was." The universe has a particular kind of justice that unfolds in its own time. Over the next few weeks, I watched from a distance as my father's carefully constructed world collapsed around him. His business, already teetering on the edge due to a series of increasingly desperate investments, finally succumbed to the pressure. His partners, uncomfortable with the public nature of the scandal and already wary of his financial decisions, withdrew their support entirely. Clients canceled meetings. His office lease terminated early. Megan, still dependent on him financially, drained what resources he had left. Every day brought a new crisis, a new expense she couldn't possibly handle on her own. My father, desperate to maintain his golden child's approval, kept giving until there was nothing left to give. It took less than a month for my father to investigate the watch himself. The pawn shop owner remembered Megan. She'd become a regular, bringing in smaller items at first, jewelry, electronics, before finally arriving with the Rolex. The confrontation between them revealed Megan's true nature in a way nothing else could have. According to mutual family friends who witnessed the aftermath, she'd tried one final manipulation, tearfully claiming she'd only pawned the watch to help pay off one of my father's business debts, that she'd done it out of love to protect him. For the first time, my father saw through her lies. The carefully constructed mask slipped, revealing the calculating woman beneath the dutiful daughter facade. In that moment, everything changed between them. "You're just like him," she had screamed, all pretense abandoned. "Pathetic and desperate. I've been cleaning up your messes for years. Taking that watch was the least you owed me." He'd thrown her out of the hotel room that night, finally seeing the pattern of manipulation that had been there all along. My father's calls began 2 months after that rainy Tuesday. I let them go to voicemail. His messages evolved from defensive to desperate. "Alex, please call me back. I made a terrible mistake. I need to talk to you. Son, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, just 5 minutes. I'm staying at the Motel 6 off Highway 9. Room 118, please. I have nowhere else to go." I saved each one without responding. Each word another stone in the wall I'd built between us. His attempts to reach me grew more frantic. He showed up at my workplace 3 times in a single week. I had security escort him out each time. He left handwritten letters in my mailbox, pages and pages of regret and explanation. How Megan had always known exactly how to manipulate him, how he'd been blind to the pattern because acknowledging it would mean facing his own failures as a father. One afternoon, I found him sitting on the steps of my apartment building, looking hollowed out, rain-soaked and diminished, a ghost of the imposing figure who had dominated my childhood. "Alex," he said, his voice breaking, my name in his mouth, a plea, a prayer, a desperate attempt to bridge the chasm between us. I stood frozen, keys in hand. The moment stretched impossibly long. Every memory crashed against me. Fragments of what we were, what we could have been. "Please," he whispered, "I have nothing left." I walked past him without a word. The sound of my door closing behind me echoed like finality. He appeared at the house one Sunday morning, unannounced. My mother answered the door while I stood back, watching his face crumble when he saw me there. He looked 10 years older than the last time I'd seen him, the expensive suits replaced by worn jeans and a faded jacket. "Please," he said, his voice breaking, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." My mother's response was calm, measured, and final. "You made your choice when you chose your golden child over the truth. Now live with it." The door closed, my hands shook, barely holding together, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down, suffocating. 3 months after that rainy Tuesday, I moved back into my childhood home, not out of necessity, but choice. My mother and I had begun repairing what my father had spent decades trying to break, our bond with each other. We fell into an easy routine, morning coffee on the porch, weekend projects restoring the garden my mother had always wanted but my father deemed unnecessary. Conversations that stretched late into the evening, excavating truths long buried under the weight of his disapproval. Megan's descent was swift and complete. After my father evicted her, she bounced between friends' couches, her welcome quickly wearing thin at each stop. She'd never held a job for more than a few months. She'd never needed to. I received a text from her 6 months after everything fell apart. "I need money. Can you help? Just until I get back on my feet. I know we've had our differences, but we're still family." My heart raced as I read her words, the audacity, the entitlement, after everything she'd done. I typed my response carefully, each word deliberate. Family doesn't frame each other for theft. Family doesn't lie and manipulate for personal gain. You made your choice. Live with it just like Dad. Her reply came instantly. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? You have no idea what it was like being Dad's favorite, the pressure, the expectations. You got to be invisible while I had to be perfect. You owe me." The room felt smaller, memories larger than the walls could contain. A universe of unresolved emotions condensed into this single, breathless moment. I stared at her message, feeling something shift inside me. The last vestiges of guilt and obligation falling away. Goodbye, Megan, I typed, then pressed block contact. The satisfaction was small and petty. I didn't care. 11 months after that fateful dinner, my mother and I bought a new house together. We sold the family home, split the proceeds, and found a place that held no memories of my father. 2 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen where my mother could indulge her newfound passion for baking, and a home office for my remote work days. Equal investment, equal ownership. My father's increasingly erratic attempts to contact us led to a restraining order. The last I heard, he was living out of his car. His business collapsed under the weight of years of bad decisions finally catching up to him. His reputation in ruins, his golden child gone, his life reduced to the consequences of his own choices. We heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd made one final, desperate attempt to reconcile with Megan. He'd found her leaving a bar with friends, approached her with tears in his eyes, begging for her forgiveness. She'd laughed in his face. "You're nothing to me," she'd said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You never were." The cruelty of her response shocked even me. But it was the truth. She had only ever valued what he could give her, never who he was. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I wonder if forgiveness might be possible someday. Not now, perhaps not ever. The damage runs too deep, the betrayal too complete. Some broken things aren't meant to be fixed. But other broken things can be transformed into something new, something stronger. My relationship with my mother, my sense of self-worth, my understanding of what family should be. Physical sensations became my language in those early days of healing. A racing pulse, breath catching, chest tightening. The body remembers what words cannot. Was this healing, or just another form of breaking? I still don't know the answer, but I know this: we're not broken anymore. My mother and I were remade. The rain still triggers memories of that night. Standing in the driveway, watching 30 years of conditional love reach its inevitable conclusion. But now, when it rains, I make 2 cups of tea and sit with my mother on the covered porch of our new home. We watch the water wash everything clean, and we talk about tomorrow. What was left after love dissolved? Just these raw, electric fragments of feeling. And then slowly something new growing in its place. Something honest, something true.